Hello, everyone. Great to connect. And thank you so much for attending the City Parks Alliance webinar about how we can use technology to collect better data and make better decisions. My name is Nikhil. I'll be moderating today's session. I am the co-founder and CEO of Kaizen. We are a municipal technology company that works with cities, counties, and state governments to modernize outdated technology across recreation, permitting, transit, and a handful of other areas. Super excited to be moderating today's session. Just a couple first points. If you are interested in gathering your continuing education credits for AICP or the CPA's general CEU offering, please watch out for a follow-up email in the next couple of days with instructions on how you can claim those credits. Additionally, support for this webinar is provided by the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation. So thank you so much to our supporters. And then for those of you that are new to City Parks Alliance, it is the only independent nationwide membership organization that is solely dedicated towards urban parks. The Alliance's vision is that everyone in urban America will have access to high quality parks and green spaces that are clean, safe, and vibrant. You can visit cityparksalliance.org to learn more about the Alliance and how membership can benefit you and your organization. All right, time to get into it. Let's get into today's topic. As practitioners trying to manage park systems effectively, it's so important that you know how the data and technology tools at your fingertips are evolving on a daily basis, really. I mean, so many of these tools are advancing so rapidly. How can you leverage new and existing technologies to collect better data about your city's parks, share those insights with stakeholders, and act on that data to inform planning and operations? Very excited to talk about today's speakers. Today, we are going to hear from Peter Hama, Data Insights Analyst at the Minneapolis Parks and Recreation Board, and Joe Ayers, GIS Administrator at the organization as well. They will share how they're using GIS and other technologies to improve asset management, track repairs, and also track performance. Additionally, very excited to introduce our other speaker, RJ Carden, who is the former director of Maricopa County's Parks and Recreation Department. And he's going to talk a little bit about how the county has collected park user feedback and also combined with additional insights by Placer AI, use that information to inform services, improvements, and programming for the department. Then, using examples from RJ's presentation, I'm stoked to jump in to show you how you can take your data to the next level, showcasing technologies that make sense of complex information and help you work more efficiently and effectively using ChatGPT as an example. So we're going to do some live jamming today and very excited to show you how that's going to work. Thank you so much to our speakers for joining us today. And we sincerely hope that the ideas and examples shared in today's webinar will help you think about new ways that you can leverage technology to better understand and manage your park systems. More importantly, you can learn about the opportunities and challenges of emerging technology tools in CPA's new Parks and Technology report. This report will provide a framework and 6 specific case studies to help you better manage your park systems by understanding usage patterns, demographics, and facilities, as well as evaluating policy. The report will also provide information to guide you in choosing technologies that align with your organization's visions, goals, and values. We'll make sure to put the link to the report in the chat. Before we get started, just a couple of quick housekeeping items to make sure folks are aware of how the webinar works, and if there's any technical issues, we can help you resolve them. We have an awesome turnout today, and to ensure that we can respond to everyone as questions or technical difficulties arise, here are just a couple of tips. To ask a question, click the questions icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen, type the question into the box, and click send. Feel free to send questions throughout the presentations, just throughout the entire presentation, but just know that we're going to be holding them until the end. But our team is going to be looking through and making sure that we're top of mind and being able to answer a handful of the most popular questions that come through. If you experience a technical problem during the presentation, please type it into the question box and send it to us, and we can help you troubleshoot. If you miss something, please don't worry. Links to today's recording, the presentation, and all related resources will be emailed to everyone that's a registrant here today. And finally, time to get to the fun stuff. I will turn it over to RJ to get us started. And RJ, please take it away.
Sorry, Nikhil, having just a moment with my screen sharing here.
No worries.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, I apologize for the delay. Uh, Nikhil, first let me say what an honor it is to be here to speak to this distinguished group. Um, I have to tell you how much fun I've had preparing for this presentation over the last month. Uh, I do consider myself somewhat of a data nerd, but I'm certainly not an expert in AI. So the last month of taking data sets and other information and running them through AI platforms like ChatGPT has been really enlightening for me. So it's been a lot of fun to do that. Just to give you a sense of who I am, again, I think Nikhil mentioned I'm the retired director of Maricopa County Parks and Recreation Department. That doesn't mean I'm retired. I'm just transitioning to some new things. But I've had more than 40 years of parks and recreation experience, um, ranging from county work to city and town, state parks, nonprofits, private sector, helped a lot of professional associations, even done some teaching at the university level, and now doing some private consulting for recreation and park organizations. Much of the discussion that I'm going to provide today will be focused around the Maricopa County Park System. So I wanted to give you just a thumbnail of that park system so you have a better understanding. The Maricopa County Park System is a regional open space and trail system situated in the Sonoran Desert. The Sonoran Desert is actually the most biodiverse desert ecosystem in the world. So we have a wonderful palette to work with there. The park system itself is 122,000 acres of parkland, 13 large regional parks and conservation areas, 500 miles of trails. The signature piece of that is our Maricopa Trail, which is a 315-mile trail that loops around the entire county and connects 10 of the 13 regional parks together with more than 15 cities and towns. I also think it's very important to understand that we are an enterprise system. About 90% of our operating revenue comes from earned income from the park system. So I think that's an important fact. And then just to give you a quick understanding of Maricopa County itself, we have a population of 4.5 million people, which makes that the fourth largest county in the United States. More than 9,000 square miles of land within the county, which is larger than 4 US states. And then there are 24 cities and towns, and some of those that you would probably recognize would be Phoenix, Mesa, and Scottsdale. As I mentioned, today I really want to discuss my experience and insight into collecting big data and using AI to improve decision making and service delivery. Some of the specific things I want to talk about are how we can use big data and AI to enhance community impact and visitor experiences, drive revenue, improve efficiency, and then the fun part of it is actually telling the story of your success. Before I get into talking about this, I wanted to share a quick story that really has impacted me and made me think about big data and why it's important. And this started when I was a young recreation planner for Arizona State Parks. We were distributing millions of dollars of grant money to waterways around the state, and most people probably wouldn't think about it, but there are more than 70 boatable lakes in Arizona. And so we were just trying to determine in distributing that money, what is the most effective way of doing that. And so we Ended up having 4 data sources for that study. Again, in the early 90s. First, we interviewed, or we surveyed rather, registered boaters from throughout the state of Arizona and got their experiences and visitor use, and collected a huge data set on them. Then we thought it was important to better understand lake managers, whether those be state park managers, county park managers, Forest Service folks, whatever, and determine, what they were seeing on the waterways. And then finally, we looked at visitor use data where we could find it, how frequently were lakes being used, what kind of numbers were attending the lakes, et cetera. The real interesting insight for me here was that while in many cases, what the boaters were telling us were their priorities and what the lake managers were telling us were their priorities were pretty much in sync. However, the number one thing that was not was lake managers were telling us they needed more boat park trailer parking areas and more boat ramps, expanded boat ramps. The public surveys did not indicate that. So we went back out and collected yet another data set, a qualitative data set from boaters, and asked them, what's going on here? And for me, I called it the mall at Christmas effect. The lake managers, what was sticking in their mind were the problems they were experiencing on Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day with overcrowding. When we asked the boaters about that, they basically said, yes, those are anomalies. We expect the lakes to be busy those times of year. So that really hit home for me, the use of data and really quality analysis to help understand, what we as managers think may be priorities aren't always the priorities. So what is big data? Big data refers to large complex sets of information that come from many different sources and are analyzed to help make better decisions. And this comes from the National Recreation Park Association in 2023. It also, they talk about when analyzed effectively, the data helps department understand how parks are used, what services are important, and how better to serve the community. And I think the key there is effectively using the data. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. So what is AI? Um, I did an extensive literature search in preparing for this presentation. Interestingly enough, definitions of AI go back to 1955. A professor out of Stanford said it's basically the science and engineer of making intelligent machines. Um, so for the discussion today, the definition I would like to use is something that I've compiled based on all of the data that I've looked at. And it's really the use of science and engineering, or hardware and software, to replicate human intelligence, systems that comprehend, learn, and synthesize knowledge from vast sources to rapidly solve problems or produce results. So what can AI do for you? And again, Nikhil mentioned the Park and Technology report that the City Park Alliance has put out. This comes directly from that report. It says new technologies are revolutionizing how park and open space are managed, but there's a growing need for technologies that go further by helping us understand and really deeply understand park use and ensure equitable park investments. So now I'd like to talk just briefly about this is not an exhaustive list, but this is some of the big data sets that we've collected over the years at Maricopa County Parks and Recreation Department. Every 3 to 4 years, we go out and collect visitor surveys so we better understand the visitors in our parks. One of the unique things about this is it's a 2-part survey. We do an on-site survey and then a more extensive mailback survey. This is done in cooperation with Arizona State University. And a number of years ago, we developed an intergovernmental agreement with the Arizona Board of Regents that basically sets an open contract for all of the universities in Arizona and even the community colleges, that we can go directly to them and negotiate various research projects. So that has been wonderful for us. So we have actual students that come out and do the on-site surveys. They process the data, and then the professors actually do the data analysis for us. We also do general population surveys every 3 to 5 years. This again has been done in concert with the universities, but it's also been done in concert with private consultants. We just finished our park system master plan, and we wrote this scope item right into that work agenda. And so they collected the data via a mailback survey. I also, in the working on the master plan, we did some specific polling. And the interesting thing about this is we use an application called SurveyMonkey. And SurveyMonkey allows you to actually create your own surveys, distribute them via a web link or via social media. And then the SurveyMonkey actually will um, uh, analyze the data for you and report that back. So it's a great tool, and I would consider that an AI tool. We have reservation data and sales data that's collected through our point of sale system. One of the things next that Nikhil mentioned was the cell phone data or Placer AI, and we're using that now in individual park master plans. That data is helping us map hotspots of where people go within the park, how long they're spending in the park, the demographics of those people that are visiting certain hotspots, and actually identifying areas that are not official entrances to our parks. And initially that was alarming. And now we've looked at it and said, this is really an opportunity to create new entrances to our parks where people are already congregating. For the last several years, we've done a number of economic impact studies. And when I talk about telling the story, this is one of those things that has been very beneficial for us to tell the story. Our county supervisors have really picked up on this when we can come out and say for every dollar that's invested in a county park, there is $8 return on investment to local communities' economies. And that has been something that our county supervisors have picked up and really run with. And I think it's been a strong reason for them to continue to invest in county regional parks over the last 10 years. Social media is something that I see as a real untapped data source. We're like most of you on Twitter or X, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Comments are coming in all the time. We don't have staff to look at all of those comments. AI can do that for us, and I'm really looking forward to the benefits that AI can provide in doing that. Secondary data sources. Our Arizona State Parks, for example, does a statewide comprehensive outdoor recreation plan every 5 years. They collect data, being that Maricopa County is the largest county in the state of Arizona. The data set for Maricopa County from the state parks data set, so our sub data set is actually large enough to make very generalizable opinions on based on that data set. Drone data, we really started over the last year using drone data to help in managing natural resources and tying that into Esri and mapping hotspots for things like invasive species or mitigation of fire damage that has occurred. So I'm very excited about that. And then maintenance management systems provide a vast source of data, and I think our next speakers are going to talk about that. So just wanted to talk a little bit about how we use data to enhance customer service. And part of that is tracking program participation. We can use AI to help better identify trends and enhance program delivery and develop new programs. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, I challenged ChatGPT to develop an online app for a hike, a program, a self-delivered program for a hike on one of our trails. and it did a great job. So there's just so many different applications for that. We can apply predictive maintenance and improve our safety and sanitation. We can determine through water use and electricity when are restrooms most being used and when do they most need to be serviced, other than just guessing. We can analyze GPS and visitor use data combined to allocate and better position capital resources. Again, we can monitor social media and surveys to gauge satisfaction in real time. And I think that's the key of this whole presentation for me, is using data to make real time decisions. So finally, we've been playing around, Nikhil and I have been playing around with some data. And I think it's really interesting in making those real time decisions, being able to take data and develop enhanced services, facilities, and programs for target markets of users, user groups, or various populations. So you can really start to drill down on what do various user groups need. So we go to our general population survey, for example, and we determine there's a specific segment of the population maybe that's vastly underserved in our county parks. We can take AI and start to really drill down on what kinds of facilities, programs, et cetera, are important to those groups, so we can make better decisions on equity, for example, in our county parks. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Nikhil, because we've talked about a data set that we have within our county parks, um, and it provides some crosstab data, but the ability of AI to really drill down on some of that data is truly unique, and would help us greatly in the future make those instant decisions on, again, programs, facilities, et cetera. So with that, I would love to turn it over to Nikhil and have him do a demonstration.
Awesome. Thank you so much, RJ. And excited to dive deeper. And one thing, maybe framing this case study as an example to see how we might be able to leverage common AI technologies and tools. It's really important to me, especially that folks in the room today are aware of, honestly, how shockingly simple it is to use a modern AI tool to get some really insightful data and analysis back to help you make more informed decisions. And again, will this replace the work of maybe a fancy data consultant one day that is going to do all of the dynamic reporting and put together the year-long case study? Maybe not. But if it helps you make more informed and tighter decisions in rapid succession, I think there's a lot of value to using these kinds of tools to help you out when you may not have several months to make a decision, but rather have to operate quickly in a matter of weeks or hours or days. And so, what I'm excited to show you is, let me first give you a very quick tour of the Excel spreadsheet that RJ was referencing. So if folks can see my screen here, what you're looking at is a crosstab data sheet around actual survey data that's taken from residents of Maricopa County. And the main prompt that RJ was trying to assess was, how are we doing as it relates to a specific underrepresented ethnic group? What do those individuals say about our park systems? How can we provide better services to those individuals and make sure that our park spaces and green spaces are equitable and reservable by all, and an enjoyable experience for everyone? And so if you're looking at the spreadsheet here, it's quite complicated data. I mean, there are multiple sheets, there's over 300 questions, there's a lot of crosstab data as it relates to pricing, ethnicity, vehicle entrance fees, income, and so on and so forth. So the data has several axes to it, and it's going to take some time to really unpack. And one of your options, if you don't have a data and analytics background, is to find someone that does, or find an organization that does. But that takes a lot of time, energy, cost, and so on. What are some easy and simple tools that we could use in today's world to help make some of the decision making a little bit easier? Well, I'm very excited to show you. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a quick second and come straight back to our ChatGPT instance. So as we mentioned, me and RJ have been working on this chatbot that we've been preparing for this demonstration. And I wanted to first jump into showing you, for folks that haven't used ChatGPT before, I'm sure you've probably heard about it in the news or on social media. I think it's a remarkable change agent that where you will be able to gather remarkable data insights and help you with your daily workflows or any sort of virtual assistance that you might need in terms of unpacking some of these logical reasoning flows are really amazing in ChatGPT. And most importantly, AI can sometimes be flawed. The idea, I don't want to promote this narrative that it's this perfect system that you can always rely on or use for all the answers. It's meant to help be a creative agent where you can help guide your decision making and add a little bit more flavor and strategy to the way that you think about the world and the data that's presented to you when you may not have that technical skill set that's required to really piece through everything. It's just an opportunity to have a buddy in your corner that knows a lot of information and can help you unpack some of this data. So first things first, I wanted to walk you through what we've actually done with this bot. The very first question that I've prompted ChatGPT with is in human plain English. This is one of the most remarkable parts of this technology system is you don't need to have any other experience other than knowing what you want and having the data to share. So I went into ChatGPT and the very first thing I asked it was, "Hi friend, I want to get your help on doing a data analysis on some public visitation data, specifically for the Maricopa County Parks and Recreation Department. I'm working with county leadership to better understand how equitable our services are. Specifically, I want to better understand what services and facilities are most important to a specific ethnic group that is underrepresented in our parks. I'm going to give you a data set to work off of." What does ChatGPT say? That sounds like a meaningful and impactful project. It says, once you give me the data set, here's what I can do. I can identify usage patterns. I can segment visitation. I can compare visitation to overall population demographics to assess equity, and so on and so forth. It's automatically suggesting potential inside areas that it can help with. And it says, hey, make sure you upload the file. So I did. I uploaded it the exact same spreadsheet that I'm showing you now. And I asked it a question. I want to know what park facilities are most critical for Hispanics with an income of $45,000. The sheet uses a cross-tabulation format with questions as rows and demographic groups as columns. Firstly, can you pull the most relevant list of questions related to importance of various park benefits and features? So here I am prompting it with a direct question. Help me understand the data as it relates to a very specific desire. Imagine your county leadership or you're working with parks and operations staff and you have something that you want to ask as a directive to the AI system, and you can ask it directly and let ChatGPT do the rest. It'll look through the content, scan and do an analysis of the file, cross-reference relevant questions, and say, hey, the questions directly addressing the importance of various park benefits and features are located primarily in these sheets, Q1 through Q51 and Q52 to Q111. So it's telling you, hey, this is this massive spreadsheet. Start here, look here, and see if you can gather some insightful data from it. It also dives a little bit deeper. These sheets include Likert style responses like critical, very important, somewhat unimportant, and not at all. So the system is smart enough to recognize common data gathering patterns that are very common in data analytics or surveying and those kinds of different workflows, recognize that that's the usage preference and flag it to the user that may not have that awareness or technical competency. And then they are cross-tabulated by ethnicity. It dives into the column breakdown. It includes a column for Hispanics and rows grouped by income. Example questions. It dives a little bit deeper, tells me about the spreadsheet. It contextualizes something that can be very complicated and overwhelming and makes it digestible in just a couple of paragraphs. Next step, to proceed, I'll extract and list all of the exact question text in these sheets that assess the importance of park facilities or services. Then it can analyze response trends and try and get to the heart of the question that I asked. It curated the full list, specifically focusing on income, which was the centered question that I asked it, and started listing out these questions. Here are the ones that are related to the general benefits and perceived value of parks. Here are the ones that are related to infrastructure and facility reservations. Here are the ones that are related to trail and accessibility needs. And again, all of this was prompted and gathered up by ChatGPT from me asking 3 questions to it. I'm going to scroll down. It breaks it down by maintenance, security services, group food and activity support, and presents me with that information. Now I'm going to gather that, get a little bit smarter on the spreadsheet, and then I wanted to ask it a follow-up. Dive a little bit deeper for specific park facilities like trails, sports, picnic areas. And then I said, as an example, question 132 relates to the importance of improving a sense of community with columns for income brackets, which includes my group of interest. The answers include choices like critical, very important, or somewhat important. What does ChatGPT have to say? It says, great, let's dive into the question that you suggested, which explores perceptions around the importance of having a sense of community. And it also interprets the data as it's laid out in the architecture of the spreadsheet. This is what is so magical sometimes about these tools, is you're asking a question in natural language with a little bit of an emotional twist on it. Hey, this is what's important to me. This is what I care about. Help me gather this information. But then ChatGPT takes that lens and understands the way that the data architecture is laid out underneath the hood and helps you get a little bit more progress made towards making a decision. It'll walk through the details, specify question 132. And again, that's me asking one question and it automatically knowing exactly what to do. It'll then break down Hispanic respondents by income bracket, give me percentage metrics of how they're responding based on the question group, provide a dynamic interpretation of that data. So this is, again, a computer making an interpretation. My advice is not to copy and paste all of this and put it into a spreadsheet and upload it. My advice is to use this intelligently and think about the strategy. Hey, this is one such data interpretation. What does your team think about it? Maybe it can help guide the juices, get the creative juices flowing, and help you iterate on a solution. It does the same thing with income breakdown and then follows on with next steps. So I go ahead and pull the next set of questions and help you along. I asked it to look at the question 154. Can you look for specific percentages? What do you think for this specific demographic group applies to question 154? And it does the same exact thing with yet another question, breaks the data down, pulls the survey data, gives me real percentages that I can look at, and provides a takeaway. Nearly 78% of Hispanic respondents rated expanding trails as either very important or somewhat important, but only 5.5% said it was critical, which is lower than most other ethnic groups. So here's a data takeaway that could be very important in helping trying to raise usage metrics and improve the equitable takeaway for these services that's prompted by ChatGPT. By income, for this income bracket, 74.5% rated as very or somewhat important, and the critical response is higher than among Hispanic respondents as well. It provides a generic interpretation of this data based on all the data that you've been able to pass to it. And then finally, what's next? What if I want to present my findings in a creation of a staff report where I can meet with a few other group members from my team and help iterate and say, here's some data that I was able to gather. I want to present it to a larger group in my organization, and we can work and make logical and rational steps towards iterating on change. And instead of this being something where you have to stop here, hire a consultant for 6 months, then go back and forth with a bunch of data exchange, and then still kind of struggle to make and take away interpretations. In 5 minutes of being able to pass the data system to ChatGPT, you can walk away with tangible insights to be able to make progress quite quickly on a very important issue. And so I prompted it. I said, I want to draft a staff report that I can present at our next internal meeting. Can you help me build the draft with my findings that I can review with a few administrators? So it comes up with a staff report template, all within the application. It sets out an objective, background, key findings, income-based analysis. It specifies the implication for equity planning in the organization, makes a series of recommendations, next steps, and it provides this that you can download as a PDF, Excel spreadsheet, any exportable format. Again, I don't want to sort of recommend that you blindly copy this information and paste it somewhere and use it as an opportunity to avoid doing the work, but rather think about it as an exciting data analysis programming buddy in your corner that you can use to get your creative juices flowing and help you make progress more quickly on certain data sets and pieces of technology where sometimes you may not have had that formal training, or maybe you do have all the right formal training and you want to get your creative juices flowing on generating a staff report, interpreting data, understanding what things look like, or just having someone to work with, because sometimes the best ideas and progress can happen from true collaboration. And this is one way to be able to help inch forward when you may just be in your office and have a couple spare hours. With that, I'll stop here and pivot back over to our mainline presentation. Give me 1 second here. I'm very excited to introduce, oops, sorry, give me 1 second. Very excited to introduce our next set of speakers. Joe and Peter, thank you so much for offering to be here. And now that we've been talking about gathering this feedback, exploring some of these technology tools available and how you can parse your data, let's look at how your team is leveraging this technology for more efficient asset management. Peter and Joe, the floor is yours, and thank you so much for making time.
Thank you, Nikhil. I appreciate being here with let me switch my slide deck. There we go. My name is Joe Ayers. I'm the JS administrator here at the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. I've been with the park board for about 3 years. I'm gonna kick it over to Peter to kind of introduce what the park board is and who we are.
Hi, my name's Peter Hamma. I'm also with the Data Insights team at the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. I've been with the park board for 7 years. I started out in asset management, and about 4.5 years ago, we created the Data Insights team, which you're going to see some of the projects and how we work and how it interacts with our assets, and learn a little bit about GIS and cartograph. The park board was proud to have won the 2024 National Gold Medal Award. We have just over 7,000 acres of land and water and serve 99% of our 430,000 residents within a 10-mile walk of the park. So we talked about in this presentation today, you've heard a lot about data, and you've heard, and the AI can be very interesting, very helpful, but it all needs to sit on a set of reliable, good data. So the park board knew that we had challenges of what do we have and where is it? Anything from our 200 plus water turn-ons and turn-offs that if they're not allocated can break in the cold Minnesota winters and springs if they get forgotten or missed, to our dozens and dozens and hundreds of different asset types. We have big natural spaces like Theodore Wirth Park, and we've got very traditional local neighborhood parks, as you can see in the bottom there. We utilized a tool called ViewWorks, and you're going to talk here today about Cartograph, both of which sit on top of a GIS framework. Now, what is GIS? It is a geospatial mapping tool that sits on and shows data and information visually. And they're kind of like pancakes sitting on top of each other. If you think of the data and then GIS and then Cartograph being the top pancake that you see first. But it all lives together. We had ViewWorks since 2017, and Cartograph is being switched to. Joe will talk about the benefits and drawbacks of that process and how we're going, but we can continue on, Joe.
Thanks, Peter. So I am actually the first dedicated GIS position in the park board. Actually the second person in that position that was created in 2017 for the, like Peter mentioned, the ViewWorks project launch. So yeah, that's why I start and finish with GIS. It's kind of just going through our inventory. We originally collected an inventory of assets to put into ViewWorks in 2017. And in 2022, there was a collection effort that was done to kind of update that baseline inventory. And the technology used, I think in 2017, was called Collector. And now it's called Field Maps for ArcGIS. And that was used with an army of interns to collect any asset they saw in a park. And if you see it, collect it and try to rate it the best you can. So that was the collection effort that was done in 2022. And we've obviously refined that since. And that's where ViewWorks and now Cartograph come in. As the GIS assets came in, the more people looked at them, and just the overall demand rose to, hey, we need more people to look at, more people to edit, and licensing and capability kind of came into play. And we worked with Esri to allow us to actually have more users. So we worked with them to get a small government enterprise agreement. But what that entails is we have unlimited ArcGIS Pro licenses, so then anyone in the organization can edit that base collection, and that really helped move our GIS forward and allow us to actually set up a Cartograph as well, because that's a GIS based program as well. I'm gonna go through a little bit of the Cartograph selection process here. It was a multi-step process. It took about 9 months to land on Cartograph as our selected software. We used a consultant. We needed help. We couldn't do it alone. Simpler was our consultant. They kept us in line and helped us through that multi-step process and multi RFPs, RFNs from the start. I can't believe it's been 9 months. But it was worth the effort to get to where we are today. And yeah, here's a sample of what that cartograph interface is. I have some benches here. We use the benches example because the bench team has really put a lot of effort into mapping and rating all these benches. We have a memorial bench program at the park board, and yeah, this is one of our jewel assets, I like to call them. So yeah, this is kind of the interface we've put together. We've used the community base map, as you can see the little courts and fields and diamonds on that base map. So that's anyone can contribute to that base map, but we've utilized that to, instead of using the aerial photo all the time, we can use that to display our data as well. We do have those assets in GIS as well, and Peter in the data insights team used those assets to for analysis. So I think I'll turn it over to, oh no, I have one more slide. Okay. The overall benefits of cartograph, the GIS integration was key. I mean, I'm very pro GIS being the GIS administrator, but just that two-way integration really sold us. ViewWorks had GIS capability, but it wasn't, the full loop wasn't closed. And that was really the, motivation and desire for a more modern interface. You can really, like I showed you on the previous slide, you can see how many requests you can map by service area, you can map by park, you can add notes, attachments. We can really, the whole point of it is to make better decisions and miss fewer issues. And I'll turn it over to Peter here to kind of go on the storytelling side of data, and a lot of this data will come from cartograph as well. So I'll kick it over to you, Peter. Thanks.
Sure, thank you, Joe. And we've heard a lot of big processes, big systems, big data, AI, but we have groups here who are massive regional counties with large populations, very large city parks. We also have people from smaller cities that are less built up in this. And the one thing I want to lead with before going into these stories is that we can all start small, and we don't have to eat the whole elephant on the first day, to use a metaphor only. And I'd say start by knowing what you want to know. Know what you want to measure, and that we all live in space, and that we are all running or involved with park systems that are in space. So all the things that we're going to be showing in our storytelling have something to do with the space. And then know what's important to you. If you have questions on what's important to you, follow the money. So for us, we had to start somewhere, and we started with our 5 major assets: buildings, pools, playgrounds, fields, and courts. And we got all of them into GIS, collecting them using just our cell phones and interns, and just looking at them and rating them on a 1 to 5 scale, with 5 like, wow, that's a new and it's amazing, and I would want to take my kids there, to 5 being, wow, that tennis court has plants growing out of it and no nets. And then anywhere in between. And then things can come back and be revised later. But once you get a process in place and you have somebody within your organization who's committed to it, who's committed to knowing it, who cares about it, who has some level of knowledge, you don't have to be a data expert to get this started. You can start using those tools to make better decisions about all sorts of things. So we're going to go around the clock here on 2 different slides. And our first one in the top left is wood ducks. We have our environmental group who goes, and we have dozens of wood duck houses, but we wanted to know where they were on a map. We had like 3 people who knew where they were because it was on a spreadsheet, and they went around and looked at them, but that knowledge didn't really go very many places. And if they had more money to put more wood duck houses in to support the natural habitat more, where might they go? So we used their existing collection tools that was just on a piece of paper and went out and created a form in Survey 123 on GIS and started collecting data year over year. And now this is a small map, but we have very robust historical data about where our wood ducks like to nest. How many wood ducks do we have? We could even ask you questions like which ones weren't successful and why? Oh, one, because squirrels. Squirrels are a big problem. They like to steal the nests. Another one is we actually had some owls that were going into them, which is also a fun thing to know. Okay, next one is Linden Hills Park. We're getting some complaints about plowed versus unplowed areas, and why don't we just plow everything? And so this is our ViewWorks, also based on GIS interface from before, that shows the blue line overlapping the park as to what we are plowing and what we're not. And then you can start making informed decisions. If you decide we're going to plow everything, you'd be plowing all the gray areas all around it. It would slow everything down. And do we really need to be plowing all the hard surfaces right around the playground? We could damage things. What's the return on investment? It allows you to make better decisions, which is the whole point of this. It's not to prove that somebody's right or somebody's wrong, but to make decisions just past anecdotes. Bottom left, there's a lot of places in this country that are dealing with trees that in Minneapolis, we're dealing with emerald ash borer right now. And there's a lot of trees that have had issues. So this is, and everybody thinks that it's only their street. And why do I have to take my tree down? Why is my tree hurt? Why is this happening to me? And this is just a story of that is happening to everybody in our city. And it's terrible, but it's part of our management of trying to help inform and help build up the urban canopy. And then the bottom right is our softball field candidate improvements. We had some money we wanted to improve. We provide the fields for the high school girls softball and other leagues, and we wanted to know what could be improved to provide better services with more money. And this is a decision-making tool. Some of these things are from Power BI, some are from GIS, some are from ViewWorks. And we will be using these tools through Cartograph, but it just shows you like what is the practical effect that we could have and what can you learn from building simple data sets to use in a more robust way. Okay, next. And so those are more simple questions. Here is a big nasty one. We had an ADA audit that we did ourselves because we wanted to know what problems we had, where were things good and where were things bad. And so we got delivered a 15,000 line report from a consultant, but the report was not easy to use. So we've spent time narrowing that down to a 5,000 line audit of, instead of the door being broken in multiple different places or not working in multiple different places because it's too heavy or it's the wrong push type or it's not electric assisted or it doesn't have the right signage. It's just the door is a problem. And that gives our internal staff or our project managers a place to go look, be like, oh, if we're doing a project at this building, let's go look at the door. But the data here you're seeing is our pools. Now we have better data on some things than others. And once you've gotten past your age and condition, which is what we started looking at, you can start layering in more information because you'll have them all geospatially captured. And then you can start looking at, you can connect them to new data sources. If you know the pool ID from our base map, our base data collection, you can put that pool ID into any other data set and you can connect them. So this is showing at like Highview Park in the bottom, you can see the 3 things that have been resolved since that we have 31 pools that are accessible with ADA considerations. And you can see all the ways in which we have fixed the audit items since the original audit was done. So this is just going, you can start shallow and go deeper and deeper and deeper. And once you have good data set up, you are able to then add new data to it, and you're gonna get much better results if you choose to do things like feed the data into an AI database, which would be possible, but is risky if you don't have good data and you don't have complete, or it's better to have a little bit of really good data than a lot of really bad data, would be my recommendation, is to start small. So let's go to the lessons learned, Joe, and then we can wrap this guy up. I'll start and then I'll throw it over to you for your final lessons learned. I'd say organizational buy-in. If it's really easy for everybody to go and just throw money at a consultant and then give you a really fancy report and you can look good to the public, but it's not repeatable. So you want people in your organization, at least one person. We are lucky enough to be funded to the point where we have a small team that can really focus on this, but not everybody does. If you are part of a city, talk to your IT department or your streets department or your public works. If you're part of the county, like find somebody who may be doing this already and try and leverage resources, build capacity to focus, have somebody who knows how to manage the GIS and somebody who's at least responsible for it. You don't have to be an expert. You have to have some base knowledge, and then define your core assets and what should be tracked. Go ahead, Joe. You can share the last couple things.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Peter. Yeah, just that base GIS database. We have a pretty simple setup here at the park where we have one server that does a lot of things. So yeah, just that's where we started with, and we're just building upon that base foundation. And we've really, leaned on having staff for that base collection. And that was really key to really have a successful asset management program, not just only intern staff, but actual, full-time staff as well. So yeah, those two things really we're just building, we're still in the, I don't know, we're not experts by any means on GIS, but we definitely have started that trajectory to become experts on asset management, and that will be end of May. So we're excited here as well. So yeah, just that base geo database, and go from there. So and, yeah,
Thank you, everybody, and we'll
appreciate
toss
it.
it back to our moderators, and I think we've got a few minutes left for questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Peter and Joe. Yeah, let's dive in. There have been some awesome, awesome questions. I know we only have about 5 to 7 minutes left here, so we'll kind of cover a couple things. Maybe, Peter, Joe, since your presentation was fresh, wanted to ask you, it looks like a couple of the questions that have come around, how you gather data real time based on your user groups. It looks like a couple questions about saying, hey, sometimes your parks ops crews are not they're kind of reluctant sometimes to do the data gathering and do the data entry. Maybe you have public volunteers and other folks about gathering citizen information. Anything that you might be able to share where it could be using a technology tool or AI or something different to be able to gather high quality information from different user groups to aid in some of the efforts here?
Sure. I would say that at least our experience is that some people are really excited about it, and some people are really wondering why they have to. So, identifying those people first, and trying to make it as easy for them as possible. So, if you can, we were for plowing for a long time. We tried to get people to say which ones which parking lots they plowed, which they didn't. And then that was too difficult. People are cold and not wanting to pull out their phones, especially while they're pulling off to the side of a parking lot, and it's while they're doing work in moderately dangerous conditions sometimes, that we had to invest in some data tracking. So getting devices on plows to know where they were and how fast our response time was. And other times it's trying not to duplicate data. If somebody likes to do it one way, then just batch enter it into the data set at the end. Or if they are comfortable using a phone to collect it in real time geospatially, do that. There's no one silver bullet, but it really is about people. People are sometimes the hardest part of change in data collection. So identify it, invest in that. Don't think that if you tell them once, they're just going to do what you say because you think it's best. Sell them,
Yeah.
have them sell it to you. Then you've won.
Yeah, totally. And that actually bleeds into maybe the second question here before maybe coming back to some of the questions that were related to the Chat GPT session. Curious, Peter and Joe, how do you ensure that the right people have access to the right geospatial layers? Like quality assurance must be a big concern where you're getting all of this data from different user groups and sources. Is there a QA process where you're going through and having someone actually maintain the integrity of the data that you're gathering? Because it feels like your efforts are only as valuable as the quality of data that you're putting into the system, right?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And the way what we have is a guy named Joe, and he he is in our IT department and also with us today. So Joe, will you talk about that?
Absolutely. Yeah. We really have the ability to um, tailor users to the assets that they're responsible for. So like I said before, we have a bench crew that just edits benches. So they can't edit courts, they can't edit basketball hoops, they just edit benches. So with our GIS technology, we just add them to each group that they're responsible for, and then yeah, they can, if they make a mistake, we can try to fix it and back it up and restore those things from backup if they accidentally delete something. But yeah, that's the beauty of GIS, and you can just tailor people to each of the assets that they're responsible for, and yeah, it works actually pretty well. So that ownership is very key for that. So
And it's great to
Yeah.
error proof this. So even I am not allowed to change the item ID number. Like I can't go in and change the bench ID number. I can go in and change, even somebody who's a pretty high level administrator like myself. I don't even have access to change some things because we don't want things to break. We only want them to people to enter in what they know and what they're able to inform the data better with.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. I know we have a couple minutes left. I'd love to come back to a couple of these questions as it relates to the interactive data session that we did with RJ, yours, and my presentation. It looks like a handful of questions really centered around a couple of things: the data privacy and review, why ChatGPT versus another LLM. And maybe I can take a kind of pass on some of these. And RJ, curious for your thoughts. And if folks want to stay on, we're happy to maybe go a few minutes over and answer some more questions. No pressure on our side. We'd love to kind of get through some more questions if people want to stay on. But if you have to run right at 11, no worries. Speaking of the data privacy and the review, one thing I want to be very clear about is AI tools are not some sort of magic cure for everything. I think that is the way that marketing props those tools up to be. That's the biggest craze in the technology world right now. But like, I harken it back to social media, thinking that that was going to make us all friendly and have the best lives ever. And sort of look how that experiment panned out. I think it's somewhere in the middle. The data that you pass in has to be rigorously reviewed. This is where that spreadsheet that RJ had worked on, there are real professionals that are doing intelligent and thoughtful data gathering to get you those spreadsheets that you can pass to a technology system. The quality of the data that you insert is exceptionally important. And I want to make sure that folks in this room sort of believe and understand that it's not about, you can't cheat that process sometimes of gathering important and valuable data. Just like we were talking about with Peter and Joe, what comes into the system is really important. On top of that, from a privacy perspective, lots of good questions here around, is it okay, or are you allowed to put some of the more private, sensitive data into ChatGPT? And it really depends on the choice of LLM and the choice of provider that you use. As an example, at Kaizen, we have a hardened Kaizen environment where it's a corporate enterprise environment that none of the data is used for additional follow-on or training. You can pay more for an enterprise plan to allow some of those features and functionalities to exist. In Microsoft's world, they have Copilot and a few other tools that are locked to the context of a specific organization. So my advice here is to use what you feel like is best within the context of your own organization or sort of privacy tools and procedures. But it is very important. There are good flags that have been mentioned about why this is a very important aspect. And then finally, so why ChatGPT or an LLM? I have no stake in any of those companies. I'm mostly just showing you an example. Please do your diligence and explore what tools work well for you. I know we're right at time. Thank you all so much. In the interest of time, I'll maybe say that was our last question. If you want to hang out for another couple minutes, we can. But just a reminder, links to today's recordings, the presentations, and all related resources will be emailed out. And City Parks Alliance will be hosting a member-exclusive follow-on for peer conversation in May about how you can utilize this data and technology to analyze your park system for even more equitable park access and service delivery. So please stay tuned in your email inbox for those details. You can subscribe to our email list. We're very excited that you were able to join us today, and thank you again. Joe, Peter, RJ, of course, thank you as well for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Nikhil and RJ.
Thanks, Nikhil. Great to be here.